So our clients comment all the time, the relational capital concepts are great, but how do I apply these? How do I do it, Ed? And you know, there's an old saying, without process, we don't do things on purpose. Without a routine, we can't necessarily repeat success. So to help implement the concepts, we created the Relational Ladder. We use the ladder because a ladder represents a common model that we all know and understand. And in a learning process, you can go step by step. You can advance. What else happens on a ladder? You can slide down or fall off a ladder. Can you slide off or fall down in a business relationship? You sure can. And if you think about a ladder, there's rungs, and those are the 5 steps: establishing common ground, displaying integrity and trust, using time purposefully, offering help and asking for help. And there's also a frame on the ladder. Those are your hard skills and your soft skills. Hard skills may be your education or the way you understand your product and services. Soft skills could be the way you communicate and write. Sometimes we tend to lean on one skill or the other because that's where we're better. I tend to lean on the soft side of the ladder. Others tend to lean on the hard side. And they say sometimes an overutilized strength can become a weakness. A great relationship, the process, the routine, the rungs of the ladder will keep you in balance. Now, the first step on the ladder is establishing common ground. And you'll notice the ladder is the widest at the bottom because at this point, you're an acquaintance in the business relationship. And it's really pretty much on you as a seller to launch that relationship. How did Max establish common ground with me? He asked great questions. His questions were so compelling that I got a lot of answers from the questions, not from him presenting any of his solutions to me. And we want to move out of the acquaintance dimension as soon as we can. Once we move out of that dimension, you'll notice the ladder begins to taper. And the next rung is displaying integrity and trust. The relationship has transitioned at this point from an acquaintance to a professional peer. And the word peer really relates to a mutual or a two-way relationship. This is really where you want to start advancing your relational capital. This is where you need to keep your commitments. And by the way, your peer relationship, they also need to keep theirs. They say that integrity is never neutral, and that means every time we're together with a customer, a prospect, a colleague, research indicates that integrity either goes up or down after we leave that interaction. Think about how powerful that concept is. Even if it isn't true across the board, if you go into every interaction believing that, we might behave a little differently. The next rung, as you're going through the professional peer dimension, is using time purposefully. Everyone's most valuable asset today is their time, and none of us have enough of it. It feels like we spend about 60% of our time in meetings, 30% doing email, and maybe about 10% actually getting stuff done. We chose to focus on the meetings aspect of our time. Now you've had a successful initial meeting, you've launched the relationship. You've done a few things together, you're keeping each other's commitments and promises, integrity is growing in the relationship, you're moving up the ladder. Now you're firmly in the professional peer dimension, which by the way is a great place to be. Professional peers meet quite often, their teams meet quite often, and the data indicates there's about 12 million business meetings a day in the United States and that we participate in. And of those 12 million meetings, they say that because of poorly planned, designed, and executed meetings, we all tend to lose 4 to 5 business days of productivity a month. Now, as a seller, think about that. If you could save a few days of those 4 to 5 lost days because of better planned and executed meetings, Not only will it help you achieve better sales success, it'll certainly help your customer accomplish their objectives as well. Professional peers look at the time spent together as an investment and not a cost. And the best way to do that is to have a purpose, plan outcomes, and have a defined process for every meeting that you conduct. We're moving into rare air now. We're on the 4th rung of the ladder. That's offering help. Now you're probably wondering, why is offering help so far up in the ladder? Shouldn't I be offering help on the 1st rung of the ladder? Here's the thing. They don't really want your help yet. They're still trying to figure out they like, know, and trust you. If they're willing to give you visibility into their company or walk the plant or all the different next steps you need to do. Why in the world would they want your help yet? But now you've invested in the relationship, your professional peers. In fact, you're moving into a dimension called respected advisor. And now when you offer unsolicited help, guess what? They pay attention. They're looking for unsolicited offers of help. And by the way, they're offering you help as well. Let me speak for a minute about respected advisors before we finish the ladder. Respected advisor relationships are the highest dimension of the ladder. Respected advisors ask each other questions like, what do you think about? Can you help us with? Will you refer someone? And those questions have nothing to do with the original reason you came together. Now think about how powerful that is when someone's asking your opinion about a new hire and it has nothing to do with the goods and services you provide to them. The other thing about respected advisor relationships is they can ask each other for help, and they generally get it. Now, if you were to look along the right side of the ladder, you'll notice that there's acquaintance, professional peer, and respected advisor dimensions. You should be able to plot every business relationship you have in the relational ladder. We would suggest that you keep about 15% of your relationships in that acquaintance dimension. And you want to move them up the ladder or you want to move them off your ladder. The real sweet spot of the ladder, and it's a bit counterintuitive, is the professional peer dimension. If you could get 75 to 80% of your relationships in this dimension, you should be having outstanding selling success. And ultimately, only a few of your relationships can get to the top, can become respected advisors because it's really hard work. And quite frankly, none of us have the time. So if you can get 5 to 10% of your relationships in the respected advisor dimension, you're doing incredibly well. Now you'll notice an arrow on the right side of the ladder. Relational capital gains are dynamic increases of credibility, integrity, and authenticity. They take you from transactional to long-term outstanding business relationships. Oh, and by the way, this is where the resulting referrals will change your career. So there you have it. The relational ladder, a process, 5 steps to transform contacts into high-performing relationships on your journey to business relationships that last. The real challenge then is not in applying the relational capital concepts or in using the Dow selling process, but in bringing the two together. Now, if we look at the Dow selling process, we'll notice that profitable customer relationships form the core of that selling process. And we can't have profitable customer relationships without strategies and processes. So applying the relational ladder, relational GPS, worthy intentions, and action planning at each step of the Dow selling process will help you distinguish yourself in your selling efforts and lead you to profitable customer relationships that last.